My name is Lauren Mitchell. I'm 32 years old, and for most of my life, I believed that silence was safer than truth. I was wrong. I grew up in a quiet middle-class neighborhood outside Columbus, Ohio. The kind of place where people smiled at you in grocery store aisles and pretended families were perfect behind closed doors. From the outside, ours looked ideal. 2 parents, 2 daughters, a white house with blue shutters. But inside that house, there was always a hierarchy. And I was never at the top. My older sister, Vanessa, was everything our parents admired. Confident, loud, charismatic. The kind of person who filled a room just by walking into it. I was the opposite. Quiet, observant. The one who listened more than she spoke. Growing up, Vanessa learned early that attention was power. And she used it. By the time we were adults, the pattern hadn't changed. Vanessa married well. She lived loudly. She told stories, sometimes exaggerated, sometimes invented, but always entertaining. I worked in compliance auditing for a regional finance firm. Not glamorous, not exciting, but stable, and more importantly, precise. The secret she announced that night wasn't a rumor. It wasn't gossip. It was something I had trusted her never to touch. It happened at my parents' anniversary dinner. 40 years of marriage. A rented banquet room. Extended family. Wine flowing freely. Vanessa was already tipsy when she stood up and tapped her glass. "I just want to say," she began, smiling sweetly, "how proud I am of this family." My stomach tightened. Vanessa never spoke without an angle. She turned toward me. "And Lauren," she said brightly, "since we're celebrating honesty tonight, don't you think everyone deserves to know why you really left your last job?" The room went quiet. I felt heat rise up my neck. "Vanessa," I said softly, "don't." She laughed. "Oh, relax," she said. "It's not like it's a crime." Then she said it. Out loud. In front of everyone. She claimed I had been investigated. That I had been forced out. That I had something to hide. Gasps. Whispers. Eyes turning toward me. My mother looked horrified. My father confused. Vanessa smiled like she'd just told a funny story. I stood there frozen. Not because she had revealed something true, but because she had twisted it. Yes, I had left my previous role suddenly. Yes, there had been an investigation. But not into me. Into her. And she knew it. Because I was the one who had documented everything. Emails. Transfers. Time-stamped approvals. Receipts she thought were buried. Receipts she thought I destroyed to protect the family. She didn't know I had kept copies. Every single one. I picked up my purse slowly. My hands were steady. My voice was calm when I spoke. "Vanessa," I said, "you shouldn't have done that." She rolled her eyes. "Oh, please, what are you going to do?" I looked around the room. At my parents. At my aunts and uncles. At people who had already decided who to believe. Then I said the words that would change everything. "I'm going to tell the truth." Vanessa laughed again. She had no idea. None at all. The room didn't explode. It didn't erupt into shouting or chaos. It went quiet in a way that felt deliberate, like everyone was holding their breath, waiting to see who would flinch first. Vanessa didn't. She smiled wider, lifted her glass slightly, and said, "Lauren, this isn't the place for drama." I nodded. "You're right," I said calmly. "It's the place for facts." That's when her smile faltered. Just a little. I walked to the end of the table, where my parents were seated. My mother's hands were clasped tightly in her lap. My father looked between us, confused and uncomfortable. "I didn't leave my last job because I was investigated," I said clearly. "I left because I was asked to assist in an internal compliance review. Vanessa laughed again. "Oh my God, listen to her," she said to the room. "She's still pretending." I turned to face her. "No," I said, "I'm correcting you." I reached into my purse. Not dramatically. Not rushed. I pulled out my phone. Vanessa's eyes followed it, but only with mild curiosity. She still thought she was safe. 3 years ago, I continued, a financial irregularity was flagged at my firm. It involved unauthorized fund transfers routed through a shell consulting account. My uncle leaned forward slightly. "What kind of irregularity?" he asked. I met his gaze. The kind that triggers federal reporting thresholds. The air shifted. Vanessa scoffed. "You're being ridiculous." I nodded again. "Maybe," I said, "but the compliance department didn't think so." I tapped my phone. And neither did the auditors. I turned the screen outward. Not to Vanessa. To my parents. On it was an email. Dated. Time-stamped. Forwarded from a corporate compliance address. The subject line was visible even from across the table. RE, unauthorized transfer, Vanessa MITCHELL Consulting. My mother's breath caught audibly. My father leaned closer. Vanessa froze. "That's fake," she said immediately. "She's lying." I didn't respond. I swiped. Another email. Then another. Approval requests. Routing confirmations. A digital trail she had assumed no one would ever connect. "Lauren," my mother whispered, "what is this?" I looked at her. "It's why I left my job," I said gently. "Because investigating immediate family creates a conflict of interest." Vanessa stood up so fast her chair scraped loudly against the floor. "You promised," she hissed. "You promised you wouldn't say anything." The room went completely silent. My father's head snapped toward her. "Promised what?" he demanded. Vanessa's mouth opened. Then closed. She looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time that night. And in her eyes, I saw something new. Fear. "I didn't steal anything," she said quickly. "It was a misunderstanding." I nodded. "That's what you said during the audit, too." Gasps rippled through the table. My aunt covered her mouth. "You were audited?" she asked. I answered before Vanessa could. "Yes," I said, "externally." Vanessa's voice rose. "This is insane. You're humiliating me." I met her gaze. "You humiliated me first," I said quietly, "and you lied." She pointed at me. "You're ruining this family." I didn't raise my voice. "I didn't announce this," I said. "You did." My father stood up slowly. "Vanessa," he said, his voice shaking, "is any of this true?" She looked at him. At my mother. At the faces around the table. Then she did what she always did when cornered. She deflected. "Why do you believe her?" she snapped. "She's always been jealous." I shook my head. "No," I said. "I've always been prepared." I tapped my phone one last time. "This," I said, "is the final report summary. I was advised not to distribute it." I paused. "But you just made it public." Vanessa's face drained of color. "Lauren," she said softly now, "please." The word hung there. It was the first time in my life she had ever said it to me. But the damage was done. Because once the truth enters the room, it doesn't leave quietly. No one sat back down after that. The dinner was over, even though no one had officially ended it. My parents looked like statues, frozen between disbelief and realization. My relatives avoided eye contact, suddenly very interested in their plates, their phones, the walls, anything except the truth now sitting in the open. Vanessa was still standing. Her hands were shaking. "Lauren," she said again, her voice lower now, controlled. "We can talk about this privately." I shook my head. "This is already public," I replied. "You made sure of that." My father finally spoke. Not loudly, but firmly. "Vanessa," he said, "sit down." She didn't. "Dad, she's exaggerating," she insisted. "She's twisting things." I turned my phone toward him. "Dad," I said gently, "you can read it yourself." He took the phone with trembling hands. Scrolled. Paused. Scrolled again. Each second felt heavier than the last. My mother leaned in, her face draining of color as she read over his shoulder. "This can't be real," she whispered. "It is," I said, "and it's complete." Vanessa laughed suddenly. Too loudly. "You're all overreacting," she said. "Nothing even happened to me. If this was serious, I'd be in jail." I met her eyes. "You're not," I said, "because I asked them not to press charges." The room went still. "What?" my mother said. "I protected the family," I continued. "I resigned. I signed a confidentiality agreement. I walked away." Vanessa stared at me. "You wouldn't," she said weakly. "You wouldn't turn on me now." I didn't answer. I tapped one last file on my phone. "This," I said, "is the acknowledgement you signed during the audit." I let that sink in. It states that if you publicly misrepresent the findings or accuse me of misconduct, the agreement becomes void. My father looked up sharply. "Void?" he asked. "Yes," I said, "which means I'm no longer bound by silence." Vanessa's mouth opened. Nothing came out. "You set this up," she whispered. I shook my head slowly. "No," I said. "I prepared for the moment you would do this." Tears spilled down her face. "You were supposed to stay quiet," she said. "That was the deal." I looked at her. "That deal ended when you tried to destroy me." The fallout didn't happen all at once. It came in waves. Vanessa left the dinner early, her confidence shattered, her story exposed. My parents didn't follow her. They stayed. And for the first time, they listened to me. Really listened. In the weeks that followed, the consequences became real. Vanessa's consulting clients disappeared quietly. Her social circle thinned. Questions were asked. No charges were filed, but the truth has a way of spreading even without headlines. And once trust is gone, it doesn't come back. My relationship with my parents changed forever. Not because they stopped loving Vanessa, but because they finally saw her clearly. And they saw me differently too. Not as the quiet one, not as the backup, but as the one who held the line when it mattered. Vanessa and I don't speak anymore. I don't hate her. I don't miss her. I've learned that peace doesn't always come from reconciliation. Sometimes it comes from distance. People ask me why I kept the receipts, why I didn't delete them, why I didn't burn everything and move on. The answer is simple. Because when someone knows your secret, they think they own you. But when you have the truth, you own the ending. She announced my secret. She thought it would break me. She didn't know I had the receipts. And she never imagined I'd finally use them.